Hi, this is Steven from Just Got Played, and today I'm going to unbox Tiny Epic Crimes, along with the expansion, Kingpins. Now, this is the deluxe edition, which means it has some extra content in there, so we'll get to that. As you can see, Kingpins is basically the same size, but half the depth. All right, so we're going to set that aside. We will get to that in a little bit. All right, Tiny Epic Crimes. Let's take a look at the back here. So it's got this tiny epic decoder system, where things are sort of obscured with the red, and then you use something so that you can see through it. You can see we're talking about 1 to 4 players, 30 to 60 minutes. It has a competitive mode, which is the default, but it also has a co-op mode. All right, so let's dig in here. There's a lot of components, of course, to this. Always these tiny epic games. They have giant list of components, even though it's a small box. All right, so there's the officer's code, and you can see all of these things that come in the box. All right, so there's the objective game mode. So I talked about standard competitive mode, and then the cooperative game mode, and then there's a solo game mode as well. So it talks about the standard setup, a note on taking notes. So I think basically it says that you have to agree to take notes or not at the beginning. There is a map that you set up using these tiles. So it's showing a picture of that there. Tiles, I mean cards. Gameplay overview, solving evidence, getting alibis, cracking the case. It talks about how on your turn, you can drive, and then you have to perform an action. Driving is optional. And you move up your badge, and there's all these different actions you can do, depending on whether it's day or night. There's at least 3 different actions you can do. And when you need to draw an event, and the events give you things to do or negatively affect you if you don't do them. At the end of every turn, you got to roll to put out mobsters. And at the end of the game, you accuse somebody of being the murderer. Somebody has been murdered, and you're trying to catch the murderer. So there's a variant for 2 players. Okay. There's the cooperative game mode. And hey, cool. Quick reference in the back. So you can see lots of information going on here. All right, so we also have the Crooked Capos. This is what makes this a deluxe edition. So everything you see in here that is not in here is what you would get if you got the regular version of Tiny Epic Crimes. I'm pretty sure anyway, and just this is what makes it deluxe. So I'm going to set this aside, and we'll come back to that in a minute. All right, so there's a nice little bag here. There are different color mobsters that you have to draw out randomly. So you put them in this bag and draw them randomly that way. All right, here's a deck of cards here. So what are these? I mean, this could be city cards. They could be the blocks. There's all kinds of stuff in here. What do you got here? All right, these are the city blocks. Well, anyway, that's the HQ. So this always goes in the middle. You make a 5x5 grid. This always goes in the middle. So I guess that's why it's separate from the others. All right, so we have suspects. A whole lot of suspects. So you're going to put one of these in an envelope, and that's going to be the murderer. And then you can get information about the suspects. You can kind of see them if you look close enough. But otherwise, actually, you can see them pretty well, can't you? The idea isn't to keep you from seeing it. It's just to make sure you don't accidentally see it unless you put the decoder on top. So there's a whole bunch of those, but not a whole lot to show you until I get one of the decoders. Actually, here you go. Here's a magnifying glass that comes with it. So at some point, you can look at your suspect card so you can see who is that. That's Patty Pipes. And there's other information around here about Patty, how they traveled, what weapon they used, or whether the evidence was a footprint or a fingerprint, etc. So all that information is on the card, which you will need to know if you're going to try to figure out who the murderer is. All right, so the game, you got D6s, right? But these are the bullet dice. So let's take a look at these bullet dice. I just saw those sitting there, and I wanted to pull them out. All right, so there are the bullet dice, and they are theoretically weighted sufficiently to be random. I have no way of testing that, so I will just take their word for it. All right, so these are force cards. Let me pull out all the force cards. Force cards are like one-time use cards that you get special benefits. And so there are different things you can do to gain a force card, and they're usually pretty powerful. I think you can only have 2 of them in your possession at one time. So you can't just like stock up a whole bunch of these. But anyway, there you go. There are force cards. I talked about events. So there are events that come out. There are a lot of events, and there are some of these tokens are also go along with them. But if you look at an event card, it's got some thematic text about it being a jailbreak, and then it tells you what to do. Putting out a mobster. Then there's what they cannot do while this event is active. It tells you what you need to do to clear the event, and then there's a reward that you get for clearing the event. So that's kind of cool. I'll just quickly go through the events here. You can pause it if you want to take a look at any of these. But yeah, there's a lot of different events that can come out, and I think at least one of these expansions brings additional events. All right, a bunch of tokens and things. All right, so these are the envelopes that we talked about with, let's take one of these suspect cards. All right, so imagine I'm trying to determine the rank of the suspect. So I can put the suspect card in here. I assume that once you've used these a little more, they're a little easier to get the card in and out. All right, so I put that in there, and then I can come over here and I can see, all right, well, that's their rank, right? Okay, and then maybe if I wanted to see what the weapon was, let's give a shot here at the weapon. All right, so this was the knife, not the gun. You can see there's always two choices. There's also information here that has to do with if you've collected this many tokens, then you get to reveal the thing. So that's just sort of a reminder on how some of the rules work. There's a getaway, gang, forensics, and this is where you keep the murderer, so you don't accidentally get it mixed up with the other suspects. You put whatever randomly selected suspect card you've got in here, and you set that, aside for the game. And then you only you pull it out when you need to look at something. But yeah, all right, there you go. Okay, I'm gonna go back to these cards. I'm just mixing it all up today. All right, city cards. So let me pull all the city cards. All right. Oh, that's our bloody card. All right, so city cards. So I mentioned that it's a 25 by 25, and we saw the HQ goes in the middle. So there's 24 of these other cards. They tell you what kind of token goes on them. So that's a, search token. That's a stakeout. I don't remember necessarily all the terminology. So I don't know what the hat means. But all of those things, they tell you the kind of tokens that can go on it during setup. And then certain buildings might correspond to certain events, like the suitcase I know corresponds. There's, I think, 2 of those, and they correspond to some events that can happen in the game. Anyway, I like the art here. Curious what that is. Okay. The fire station. Nice. Shipyard. Nice little city. All right. So you set those up randomly. So you're going to get a random city, but it's always going to be the same cards in some sort of configuration. All right, so these are the ability cards. Every police officer, you're playing a police officer in the game, you get one of these ability cards at the beginning. All right, so rookie luck, street smarts, workaholic, motorcycle, nice, athletic, wire split, gumshoe, cuff and stuff. All right, so you're going to get one of those ability cards, and it gives you something that you can do during the game or make certain actions during the game cheaper. Also, as an officer, you get one of these mats where you track a bunch of stuff in typical Tiny Epic fashion. All right, so you have the picture for your cop, right? So this is standard side, but if I flip it over, it's probably, yeah, there you go. So there's a cooperative. Down here is your badge level, and there's actions that you can do. In the standard game, I mentioned that in daytime, you've got 3 different actions to do. Nighttime, you've got 3 different actions to do, and there are 3 actions you can do anytime. This is maybe where you hold mobsters if you're arresting them and taking them to City Hall. I'm not exactly sure there. But here's your different badge levels. So as you do different things that increase your badge level, you can get rewards. And also, this is a tiebreaker at the end of the game. So at the end of the game, if you choose the right suspect to arrest, and that was actually the murderer, you win. But if multiple people chose it, and then that first tiebreaker is your badge level. I think you can go past 9 and start wrapping around and getting these again. But anyway, all right, let's take a look at this. So there's another one. All right. Just basically looking at the different art here, although there is a special ability, it looks like there on the cooperative side. All right. This is the time track. So it is a time track game. You put these two out here and you have a marker. And every time you do something, you spend time and you move around here. So whoever is currently in the back or on top, if there's more than one in the same space, gets to go next. That's your turn. Crossing these red lines triggers a new event coming out, or the first time somebody crosses it anyway. And so you go, day, night, and then finally get to the end and you have to rest your case. You have to arrest somebody at that point. All right. These are reference cards. So it's nice to know that, say, you look at your thing and you see that Greg Gunsmoke, is not the murderer, right? That's a suspect. So now you know about Greg Gunsmoke, but maybe you also just look and you see like, hey, the person with the knife did it, right? So you could see, okay, well, it could be Claire, but it's definitely not Aaron, right? So you need to know sort of what the suspect's symbols are so you can narrow it down. And then on the back of these, there's also just a cheat sheet for all the actions and symbols and such. So that's kind of cool. All right, let's look at some of the wooden tokens that we have here. Whoa, just dropped one of them. All right, so what do we have here? These are the mobsters. All right, this is what goes in the bag, right? So there's blue and there's red and gray, I think. Let me see if I can find, yep, all right. So there's blue, red, and gray. Some different mobsters. What are these tokens? Are these evidence tokens? No, these are the time trackers. Okay, so there should be 4 of these. Since I do really like time track games, so I'm glad that's here. I'm not seeing the other one. Let's see, I'm missing the red one. Oh, there it is. I'm missing that color one. All right, so those are the time trackers. So you use those on those tracks to designate how much time you've spent. That's kind of cool. And then everybody also has to have a car. Because you're driving around on the map, you're always located somewhere on the map. And so these are your cars, which designate where you are. Pretty cool. We also have badges. So the badges go, or how you track your rank along the bottom of the card. So, you go down here and you track blah, 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 blah. And then if you get past 9, you flip it over. Now you're 10, 11, 12, etc. Okay, so we've got all these and they've all got the 10 on the other side. All right, badges, and those are just more mobsters. All right, is there more in here? Of course there is. There's always so much in a tiny Epic game. All right, I'm just going to dump all of this stuff out. So, wow, I don't, some of these have to do with events. I think these markers have to do with events. This is maybe a fire, and you have some time to put it out. It takes, 1 time to put it out. You have different tokens for different things. These are the, whatever I was calling search. Maybe it's investigate. I don't know. Tokens, and you flip it over, and it's either yes, you did find the thing, or there's no, you didn't find the evidence. These tokens go along the side of the board. One goes along the left side and the others go around the top, and they tell you whether or not you can. Right. Well, let's look at this side. So during the day, you can catch an informant, which is if this is still in, I think it's the row, then you can do that action. Or if this is along, the top, that means in that column you can catch a witness. So those are different things. There's 3 of these that go in the middle of the board that have to do with each of the different colors. So there's one in here for gray as well, different colors of the mobsters. So catching those and turning those in here. Actually, I think these start here and you pull them off as you turn people in. And that triggers one of these envelopes to give you information. So there's a lot of different stuff here. I still don't know what these are for. I mean, they look like bullets, but yeah, I don't know what those are for. But some of these don't even make any sense unless you look at the specific event that comes with it. These are stakeout tokens, so you have to decide how much time you're going to spend, and then you flip it over and like, did you spend enough time, that much time or less, and then you succeed or not. I think that's how that works. I think on another one of them, maybe you roll the die. I'm not sure. All right, so I think that's everything that came in the box for Tiny Epic Crimes, except for now we'll next take a look at the Crooked Capos, which comes in the Deluxe Edition. Let's take a look at the Crooked Capos mini expansion, which comes in the Deluxe Edition. All right, so what all do we have in here? We have a rulebook, so let's take a look at that. I don't actually know how this is played, but capos are criminals. So Crooked Capos is a weird name, but crooked, I guess, references that some of the cops in the game are now crooked. All right, so it talks about the crooked module, starting an investigation cycle, investigating loyalty, right? You're checking whether or not your other people you're playing with are crooked or not. And there are rewards or penalties whether or not you're right. Okay, there's loyalty cards. And then there's these capos that you draw from the bag. And then you can arrest these capos. Maybe they take extra to arrest because they're super bad criminals. Not sure, but these are the capo tokens. So let's take a look at those. All right, so these are the capo tokens. You got 5 different colors for the 5 different capos. There you go. Those are pretty nice. I always like the components. This must be the capos. Oh, and the loyalty cards. Okay. There's going to be 5 capo cards in here that correspond to those 5 tokens that we just saw, right? So there's Rita Rouge, Amos Amnesia, Chella Cross, Nicky Knuckles, Kinji Katana. So those are the 5 that correspond to these 5 pieces out here. All right, and then you... Oh, I guess if you're crooked, you can't drive through. Oh, okay. All right, so I guess everybody gets maybe a loyalty card, or I don't know, your loyalty cards. And then most of them say clean, right? You're just clean. And then one of them says crooked. So I guess you take the loyalty card and you turn it some way or another. And you put it in here. And there's a bonus section. If one of the cards is crooked, see your reward. If all cards are clean, put it in to see your penalty. All right, so the reward is -1 time. That's cool. And then I guess if you look at one of the clean ones, you put it in here and, whoops, I did not do that right. Obviously, got to put it in the right way. All right, and you can see that it's -1 rank. I guess if you accuse somebody of being crooked and they were not. So anyway, all right, cool. That's interesting. That is the Crooked Capos mini expansion. All right, next, let's take a look at Kingpins. Okay, I created a little space here so we can unbox Tiny Epic Kingpins. So you can see, yeah, it's an expansion. It's got a patty whacking. It's got some tokens for the Kingpins, some Flophouse tokens. All right, there's a bunch of stuff in here. The question always comes up, can you fit everything in the base game box? And usually I can, or at least everything that I want to play with. Not everything necessarily. Look at that. There's some art there underneath. You know, sometimes I forget to show that. There's always nice art underneath the lid of these Tiny Epic games. So I really should show that. All right, there, I did. All right, Kingpins. Squads code. All right, so there's all the stuff that comes in Kingpins, how to set up the additional expansion, new game objectives, how the patrol wagon works, the identity of the Kingpin, and then once they're identified, they're on the run. They're more powerful, I guess. I don't know how the cold cases work. Kingpins have schemes, and that messes with you. You topple the Kingpin. Obviously, there's cooperative and 2-player as well, and those are the different Kingpins, which we will all see shortly. All right, so what do we have here? Got a bunch of cards. And let's see what these cards are. Tiny Epic Crimes Kingpins. All right, so that is just how the patrol wagon works, right? It drives around and busts flop houses. I think you have to bust all the flop houses to bust the kingpin. All right, so there are the scheme cards. All right, so we look at the schemes, and oh yeah, they're all just obscured with this red. But let's look around one. All right, there must be there's two different decoders. All right, so there's when the kingpin is at large. All right, so let's stick a scheme in here while the kingpin is at large. And all right, so it's showing you that maybe the HQ is here, and then something's going to happen there, and then I think that's a penalty plus 0 time though. So this one probably wasn't that bad. That scheme. Let's take another look at another one real quick and see how that goes. All right, so this is centered around, I don't know, this must be a specific building. Penalty of plus 3 time. Yikes. So that's not great. All right, well, let's look at the kingpin on the run and see what's different about that. We got the same one. So let's stick that scheme in there. May have turned it around. I don't know. Okay, still plus 3 time, and then also plus 1 time, and then there's, all right, that same thing. Okay, so that's how that works. All right, we got some tokens here. Let's see, what are these tokens? These are probably related to events that come on. Yeah, these are event tokens. So these are nice thickness. Interesting. I'm used to them, being all punched out for me already, but I guess they didn't need to for this. So they didn't bother, it's additional cost in that. So yeah, these are going to be related to some of the new events in the game. All right, so we got some events. So here are all the new events. These aren't events. These are abilities. I was going to say these don't have all the stuff for an event. All right. All right, so these are abilities. All right, so it's cool to have some new abilities. I wonder if they are specific. No, that one doesn't have anything to do with Kingpins. It doesn't seem. That one does because it references Flophouse. Unless landmarks are part of the expansion. Maybe they are. All right, but there's some new ability cards. All right, that's cool. I like new cards. All right, let's grab the new events. Let's take a look at the events. All right, there we go. That's what I was expecting an event to look like. Nice little symbol here to tell you it's part of the expansion. Ponzi scheme. Great. All right, so those are the events. And then there's, okay, here's the cold cases, which, like I said, I don't know what those were. Maybe something that happens when you scope out the flop house. All right. All right. So yeah, not entirely sure how those work, but there you go. You get to see those. All right, what do we have here? These are the mats for the Kingpins. So I guess they all have their own fairly detailed mat. All right, that's cool. And what's on the back is there. All right, so they're the landmarks. Yeah, all right, so the landmarks are part of this expansion. Landmarks and the Rogues Gallery, which has all the, so these are just references for if you're not using that Kingpin, you just flip it over and use it as a reference. I'm gonna guess they all look like that. They do, except for this, which is, oh, that must be interesting. That must be an extra thing on how you're hunting the Kingpin. All right, cool. All right, anyway, you got Patsy the Plunderer, Caleb the Colonel, Kahira the Queen, Richmond the Rake, nice, Dominic the Duchess. And all right, what else have we got in here? We got all these things. So a lot of different flop house tokens in here, right? So these are all over the board, right? There's the flop house tokens. So, there's, what is it, like 16 of these? Yeah, there's a whole lot of those flop house tokens. Oh, and they all have different symbols. Well, I mean, not all different, but there are several different symbols on the back. All right, cool, corresponding, I guess, to when you bust them. There are some landmarks, so that's cool. I'm liking that landmark already. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, cool hanger, 5, and 6. 6 landmarks. All right, more of the flop houses. And then the Kingpins all have their own tokens. I think you only play with one, but they each have their own unique token, so that's kind of cool. And this is the time tracker for the patrol car, I guess. And this is the actual patrol wagon. There you go, paddy wagon, patrol wagon. Cool. So, this is typical Tiny Epic quality pieces, what you would expect. So, all right, there you go. That is the Kingpins expansion. So, can I fit everything back in the box? I was thinking maybe until I saw these landmarks. Now I'm starting to doubt it. So I'm going to try to just throw everything in the box and see how it fits. And we'll find out how that goes. All right, so can I fit everything in the base game box? And the answer is no, not really. I mean, look at that box lift, and it's really sort of a mess in here. I do that on purpose because if there were some way to optimally pack this, I'm not going to do that every time I play the game, right? I need to be able to just put stuff in there. So, I just started chucking tokens in here along the side. I wanted to keep the capos separate. I wanted to keep the tokens and Kingpin stuff separate because I don't always necessarily want to play with it. But as you can see, the rest of the stuff is in here, and it's really just sort of a tight fit. So, can you do that with that box lift and fit everything in there? I mean, technically, sure, I just did. I showed you, but definitely wouldn't recommend it. But there you go. Tiny Epic Crimes. All right, thanks everybody for joining me for the Tiny Epic Crimes Kingpins, and Crooked Capos unboxing. If you have any questions about this, look in the description of the video below. There's a link to our Discord channel where you can come talk to us about board games. Or, of course, you can just leave a question or comment here on the YouTube video. If you want to like, share, and subscribe, all that stuff helps us out as well. But until the next time, thanks for watching.